Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the show that I'm now calling the game plan. I don't know. It might shift. But what I do is I take a deep dive into some of the NFL matchups. We did it with one game last week, Green Bay and Oakland. We had a nice favorable response. So we're going to be doing it for games going forward. Basically, my 5 most popular videos in the game previews I'm going to use. This episode is all about the Philadelphia Eagles and Buffalo Bills. Before we get rolling, 2 quick things. One, if you ever want any of my free analytics, you can follow me on Twitter or you can send me an email address. Just look at the information in the graphic below. I am going to be running through the injuries, the statistical relations between these two teams, and then also, use some of that to predict the game plan, which historically I've been pretty accurate on, predicting how these offensive and defensive schemes will attack each other. And then also use all that information to project fantasy football and daily fantasy football stats. Again, I'm right more often than I'm wrong. I have followers that make a lot of money in daily fantasy, blah, blah, blah. Again, before we get going, please, it helps us if you subscribe and like. If you can give me those 2 seconds to give me 2 clicks, it makes a big difference for us. There are actually features, believe it or not, on YouTube that are locked in terms of interactivity. So the sooner we become a YouTube partner, the sooner we can really, make these videos better. But I'm going to start what I like to do with these games, and I always come into these games without bias. I don't care about either one of these teams. I like to bet on daily fantasy. I like to play fantasy football, and I like to pick games against the spread. And so, to do that, you have to really take bias out of it. I like the Eagles team in terms of talent, but they haven't been playing well. I like this Buffalo Bills team and what they've been doing. I was lower on them to start the year, but I'm kind of eating my words. They're very, very good. So let's look at the injuries. And if I look at a high level, I don't love some of these injuries for the Bills. You got Kevin Johnson specifically questionable, but they have a lot of questionables. In the NFL, questionable tends to mean they're going to play at some point. But for the Eagles, you see Deshaun Jackson is still doubtful. Then you have Tammy Jernigan doubtful. That's not great either. So I don't love it. And then you see even Jason Peters is banged up and questionable. Of these two teams, it looks like the Eagles more banged up. Given that Buffalo's at home, given that Buffalo seems to be playing a little bit better right now, that's not great for the Eagles. But let's look at the pass offense and pass defense and so on and so forth. And what I like to do is show the defense and the offense next to each other so you get a better idea of how these teams are going to play out. So pass offense, the Eagles are ranked 20th versus the 4th Bills defense. Obviously, that favors the Bills heavily. Pass defense for the Eagles, 27th. Bills pass offense, 21st. Again, it's kind of a wash, a little bit of a favor towards Bills. Run defense for the Bills versus run offense. Again, it favors the Bills slightly. And then run defense for the Eagles, which I think is their defensive unit strength, is 6th. But then the Bills have the 7th ranked rushing offense. And, of course, Josh Allen runs the ball. The Eagles, they're really good at stopping the run, but what do they do against a mobile quarterback? We'll see. I think Josh Allen will have some opportunities in the running game this week. Now, what I like to do, if you're not an NFL bettor, and a lot of folks aren't, the way professional gamblers like to do is everybody has a system. I have my own system, and some of this stuff is in there, but it's important to look at some of these things. You look at the offensive yards per play, the defensive yards per play. You get a composite, and you can see right off the bat, if you just look at the Eagles, they gain 5.3 yards per play, and then they give up 5.7 yards per play. That's per play for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a negative 0.4. Similar with the Bills. They give up 4.7 and they gain 5.6. Per play, they're in a net of 0.9. And even if you look at these next to each other and you were to build a composite, you could assume that the Philadelphia offense, if you just average these guys out, are going to gain about 5 yards per play this week. Whereas if you average out the defense versus the offense, it looks like the Bills gain about, 5.65 yards per play. That's over a half yard per play advantage for Buffalo. That's not good for Philadelphia. But, you have to dig deeper than that. Turnover margin, 3rd down, 4th down conversions. Here's what concerns me for the Bills. You look at their 3rd down conversion percentage offensively. I think it's the 4th column or row down there. 33% 3rd down conversion rate. That means that when to me, what this means is a better. When they're in 3rd and long, they're at a disadvantage. They got to keep Josh Allen in 3rd and short. They got to get the run game going. So Philadelphia, spoiler alert, they really need to stop this this run game to really have, a chance to cover. And I think they do have a chance to win the game, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Fourth down conversion, you can see, and by the way, Philadelphia's third down conversion is much better offensively at 48%. So that if you just look at the quarterbacks, Carson Wentz is just a little bit more of a mature quarterback passing the ball than Josh Allen is. And so third and longs, Carson Wentz is going to convert more in those third and longs than Josh Allen will. It's just a fact. I'm sorry, Bills fans. It's just a fact right now. I'm not throwing shade at Josh Allen. I like him this year. He's a lot better than I thought he would be, but it is, a truth of his progression, and he is progressing. Fourth down conversions, offense versus defense, I don't really see a lot of variance, anything to be concerned about there. The offensive red zone touchdown percentage, so Philadelphia scores 63% of the time. Buffalo scores about 68% of the time in terms of touchdowns. And then you look at the defensive red zone. Buffalo is actually giving up touchdowns 64% of the time when teams get in the red zone, believe it or not, which I find incredible, but it's the truth. And then the defensive red zone percentage for Philadelphia, it's actually even a little better. So if you're looking at red zone, Philadelphia is actually the better red zone team. But Buffalo just, I think they end drives quicker, more 3 and outs, and their defense is dominant. When teams get to that point, and it's rare for Buffalo because their defense is so good, they tend to do a little bit better. So, injuries, Buffalo's a little bit healthier. You look at, the yards per play, certainly that favors Buffalo, but where does it count? The red zone. Buffalo's going to be kicking more field goals than Philadelphia will, which is an interesting stat. If we move forward now, I think we can get really to the game plan. And the keys to success. We'll just run down Philadelphia first and then Buffalo. Philadelphia, you got to stuff the Bills' run. You got to force Josh Allen into third and longs. That's when you can force turnovers. That's when you can get them off the field at that 33% third down conversion rate. Zach Ertz, I don't know I guess I do know what's up with him. I think, defensive coordinators got enough tape on him. They really just try to bully him and push him around. Dallas Goedert is outplaying him right now. I'd like to see Zach Ertz play a little bit better, and I'd like to see him used in the flats and in the short passing game this week to try to neutralize the Buffalo Bills defense, which, frankly, I was looking through each game. It's hard to find a weakness in this defense. They're very, 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 very good. Ronald Darby for Philadelphia, their defensive back, has to win his matchup. He's a second cornerback. We saw what happened with Stephon Diggs. We saw what happened with Terry McLaurin. I mean, Philadelphia has been giving up a lot of touchdowns. I don't think John Brown is the dude that's going to really go off like Stephon Diggs did. Duke Williams, assuming he plays, he is questionable. Assuming Duke Williams plays, he has some opportunity to win. So that one, you can see they're side by side for Philadelphia and Buffalo. That's a key matchup for me this game. Can Duke Williams beat Ronald Darby? If you look at the PFF, the Pro Football Focus grades, which I have an account with, that matchup does significantly favor Duke Williams. So we'll see how that goes. But Darby needs to lock down Duke Williams on the outside there. The running game has to average at least 3 yards a carry, preferably 3.5 yards per carry. I don't think they'll be able to average 4 yards a carry. We'll see. If they do, I feel really good about Philadelphia. Jordan Howard needs to be able to run the ball up the middle, and they need to integrate Miles Sanders in the screen game. Again, I was looking through these Buffalo Bills defensive games. There really haven't been, even the Patriots, nobody's really been successful throwing screen passes against Buffalo because they're so good, but Philadelphia needs to make that happen. And then lastly, don't give up field position. We talked about the third down percentage. We talked about red zone. I do think Philadelphia scores more touchdowns than the Bills do in this game, but the Bills are a good offense. They can move the ball, and they'll get points. So the Bills will take the points when they can get them. Philadelphia needs to convert in the red zone. Don't give up possessions by being too aggressive on fourth down. The Bills are good at flipping the field position when that happens. Doug Peterson, you need to punt the ball this game and just trust your offense to make it happen in the red zone when they get there. Now, for the Buffalo Bills, establish the run. It's key. I think that Bills running game versus the Eagles running defense, again, two strengths of these two teams. It's going to be very telling how this goes. But the Bills need to win that matchup, I think, to put Josh Allen into favorable positions. If Philadelphia can hold the Bills to 3 yards a carry or something like that, the Bills are going to have a tough time winning this game and certainly covering the spread, which is negative or -2. Eagles +2, Bills -2. So Duke Williams, I mentioned that matchup. Avoid turnovers. Josh Allen's got to play a clean game in this game. Don't do anything stupid. I don't really see this as the aerial attack Duke Williams versus Darby. I don't see Alshon Jeffrey, going crazy. I was excited that maybe Deshaun Jackson may be back, but it looks like he's doubtful this week, so we won't get there. And let Josh Allen run the ball. It's not my favorite thing to have quarterbacks run, but he needs to be involved again. This Buffalo Bills running attack needs to average, I think, about 4 yards per carry. They want to win that matchup. Now let's get into the good stuff, the fantasy football analytics. Once again, please, if you want these, I do them for every team, every position. They're completely free. Just send me an email or tweet at me. Carson Wentz at a 12.48. Obviously, I'm not liking this Philadelphia passing attack versus the Bills matchup. These are not my projections. They're statistical computer projections, something I built. That's what RoccoBot is a little statistical projection thing. But again, right a lot more times than he is wrong. RoccoBot, I'm calling him he like he's a real thing. He's not even a tangible robot. He's just a computer program. Miles Sanders, I think, is better than Jordan Howard. Alshon Jeffrey. Nelson Aguilar has to win his matchup. That's... it's like a record scratch or nails on the chalkboard for Philly fans. It's so important. Aguilar has to win his matchup. Arcega-Whiteside, I don't really think he'll be in there. Actually, it's probably Hollins, not even Arcega-Whiteside, so I apologize there. Zach Ertz needs to show up. I don't like his projection either. But interestingly, I like the Eagles projection. I think they're a top 15. They're probably a start defense this week. Now you look at Buffalo. You got Josh Allen. I think he's going to run. I think he'll get a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown this week. I like his projection against the Eagles. Frank Gore, I like him. Don't love Devin Singletary, although Buffalo, the dude is so electric. You got to get him more involved, Buffalo. Do it. John Brown, 14.72 points. I think he'll get nice yards, but I think the touchdown is more likely to go to Duke Williams this week. Cole Beasley, I would like to see him used more. You can see it's a very low-rated projection. Dawson Knox is an okay projection for a tight end. Maybe you cycle him through some of your daily fantasy lineups, but I don't start him in fantasy. And then the great Buffalo Bills defense is only projected at a 7.8. So you can see even my projections, they definitely favor Buffalo to score more touchdowns in this game. Let me just say this. Analytically speaking, my computers, and I do the same thing for betting against the spread, they like Buffalo quite a bit. My fantasy football projections like Buffalo quite a bit. I have this feeling that Philadelphia's back is really against the wall. If they lose, they can't go down this much in the division. They already lost to Dallas. They're not playing that well. I really think Philadelphia has more urgency in this game, and it's just a gut thing. Look, Buffalo Bills fans, I'm sorry. I know all of my projections, all the programs that I wrote are telling me Buffalo wins. I just have a feeling. So me personally, I'm actually not going to put money on this game. It would not shock me if Philadelphia wins this game in an upset. I do like this matchup. I hope Jernigan plays. Peters has to play. But call it a gut thing. I'm sorry. I can have feelings too, everybody, okay? I can have feelings too. But anyway, there you go. There's a full episode. Catch us on another one. I think we just did the Arizona Cardinals versus the New Orleans Saints. We'll be doing a few more. Oakland Raiders versus Houston Texans is next up for me to record. I think we'll do Cleveland Browns versus the New Orleans Saints, maybe Seattle, Atlanta. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll do a couple more. Keep an eye out for those. Watch some videos. Again, like and subscribe. Follow me, send me an email, and I will get you some cool information. Thanks, everyone.